Hi everybody, welcome to the DRF Breeding Report. I'm Dan Illman along with Nicole Russo. We're going to change things up just a little bit in this week's Breeding Report. Last week's Kentucky Derby Prep winners, Justify, Vino Rosso, Good Magic. We've already discussed them here on the DRF Breeding Report in pretty great detail, and you can find those videos at video.drf.com. Just scroll down and click on the Breeding Report playlist. This week we'll talk about two of the leading contenders for the Kentucky Oaks. Two of the favorites, I would say, and we'll begin with Midnight Bisou. And let's just watch Midnight Bisou, Nicole, destroy this field in the Santa Anita Oaks. She is two noses away in her career from being a perfect 5 for 5. Her two fastest races have come around 2 turns. She's handled wet going, she's handled fast going, she's handled just about everything but the 1 1/8 distance of the Kentucky Oaks. Does she have the pedigree to get this extra 1/16 of a mile?
You know, I do believe that she's got the pedigree to do so, even if it's maybe not so obvious. People might look at her sire, Midnight Lute, and say, well, he was the 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint winner and champion sprinter. But, you know, he's a son of dual classic winner Real Quiet, who's by a stamina type influence in Quiet American. I think Midnight Lute, kind of a hidden distance type sire. That's been proven out by some runners that he's had, such as Midnight Aria, winner of the Queen's Plate, and others. Midnight Bisou out of the Repent Mare Diva Delight, who was a Grade 3 winner routing, although on turf in the Florida Oaks. I do think it's a distance type pedigree, even if it's not so obvious. As you mentioned, Midnight Bisou, very fast filly. Those 2 noses from being undefeated. Both those defeats came at the hands of Dream Tree, the unbeaten filly who was kind of the clubhouse leader for the Kentucky Oaks until she defected due to injury. Not sure how strong the California division is behind her, but a lot to like about Midnight Bisou.
Not only was Midnight Bisou's dam a graded stakes winner, the second dam was multiple stakes placed at distances ranging from 6 furlongs to 1 1/16. Midnight Lute stands for $15,000 at Hill and Dale. Of course, a 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. Bob Baffert always thought that Midnight Lute could stretch out. He had some breathing issues that might have compromised that, but he's been a solid sire. Midnight Lucky shaking it up. You mentioned the distance Midnight Aria. Midnight Bisou finishes her 1 1/16 races like she might be able to get the 1 1/8 without an issue. And then we've got Monomoy Girl, and let's just watch this performance in the Ashland Stakes. Monomoy Girl, if you recall, came from off the pace to win the Rachel Alexandra in her prior start, but she's always had natural speed, and she never gave any of the 6 other fillies in the Ashland a chance at Keeneland last week.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this filly has shown the ability to adjust as race circumstances dictate, overcame that poor break and kind of being taken out of her game in the Rachel Alexandra, controlled this race at every step to roll in the Ashland. She's by Tapizar, son of Tappet from that Winchell breeding program. By far the best runner so far by Tapizar, winner of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Monomoy Girl's dam, a half to a long-winded horse, although on turf in Drum Major.
Drum Major did win the Knickerbocker Stakes on the turf at 1 1/8. It might bode well for Monomoy Girl's stamina prospects. Her second dam was pretty talented and fast. She was an undefeated multiple stakes winner from 5 starts at distances between 6 furlongs and a mile. Tapizar stands for $12,500 at Gainesway. This one coming off a 95 Beyer speed figure performance in the Ashland. Midnight Bisou coming off a 90 Beyer performance in the Santa Anita Oaks. Both of them, it appears, have the pedigree to get a 1 1/8, but if you had to choose one just on pedigree, which one would it be?
My goodness, you know, if it were just on pedigree, I believe that Midnight Bisou is maybe a bit stronger of the two, but when you factor everything in, Monomoy Girl is the filly that I prefer. You know, she's shown the ability to adjust, as we've discussed, and she's got that 2-year-old form at Churchill.
You can follow Nicole on Twitter at DRF Russo. You're not going to want to miss this week's Kentucky Oaks Countdown. Nicole and Joe Nevels from DRF Breeding, they're going to talk about the leaders of the Kentucky Oaks right now, as well as my Miss Lily, the winner of the Gazelle, and her pedigree prospects. Next week on the Breeding Report, I'm sure we'll talk about the Arkansas Derby, but there's a European entrant, and we're not talking about Mendelssohn. We'll probably talk a little bit about Gronkowski. We'll see you then.